All right. Hi, everybody. This is a video lesson for week 11. If we check the schedule, week 11 is a video lesson and it is Unit 6, Discovery and Invention. And don't forget that the deadline for the writing project part 2, last week's assignment, the deadline is your week 11 class. Okay, so try to make sure that you meet the deadline for that. Right, so we're going to have a look at the book for Unit 6. All right, so remember, the best way to use these videos is to have your textbook in front of you, and when we get to a page where there are questions, pause the video and have a go at doing the questions just like we do in the class, in the real-time class, and then start the video again and you can check your answers with me. All right, so try to be interactive with this video. If you just watch it, it's going to be less effective. Try to also study your textbook. So have your textbook open in front of you and just follow the same pages as the PowerPoint. Okay, so like I said, we are studying Unit 6. And what we'll do first is we'll look at the vocabulary. So there is no vocabulary quiz with the video lessons, but we will still check the vocabulary because, like the midterm, there is a chance that some of the vocabulary could be in our final test. So let's start with reading 1 and let's look at the vocabulary. So we've got 7 words: essential, harmful, helpful, illustrate, pattern, prevent, unlimited. So this is your first chance to stop the video and have a go at filling in the blanks in those 7 sentences under the words. Right, and now I'll just continue and go through the answers. So let's start with number 1. Before the invention of sunscreen, people had no way to protect themselves from the harmful rays of the sun. Now, strictly speaking, that shouldn't have a capital H, but this is just what PowerPoint likes to do sometimes. So it would be a small h because it's obviously in the middle of the sentence. Harmful rays of the sun. 2. Many cooks say that the food processor was a helpful invention because it saves a lot of preparation in the kitchen. Number 3. Vaccines are a special group of medicines. They prevent illnesses from happening rather than treating an illness we already have. Obviously, vaccines are in the news these days with the COVID-19 vaccine. Number 4, the planet Uranus has an interesting pattern of stripes, which is visible by viewing the planet with a telescope. 5, the human brain has an almost unlimited memory capacity, far more than that of a computer. Number 6, if you want to be an engineer or a scientist, it's essential that you have good qualifications in science and maths. And so the last one then, the engineer used diagrams to illustrate his point about the mechanics of suspension bridges, like the Golden Gate Bridge. So illustrate here is used as a verb. That's the verb form. You probably know illustration, which is the noun, but you can use it as a verb, to illustrate. Okay, so we're not actually going to reading one article in this lesson. Like I always say, if you choose to study some more or self-study, of course, you can read it yourself. But in this video lesson, we will not be studying reading one. So let's move on and we can have a look at the vocabulary for reading two. Okay, so again, I think you can look at the words like you would do if we were doing a vocabulary quiz. And when you're ready, stop the video and again, try to fill in the blanks with the correct words. And then when you're ready, start the video again and see if you got them correct. Right, so this reading is about technology in the future. Future technology, future. And that's how it's connected to inventions. Right, vocabulary number one. New technology can bring great advantages, but the cost of buying new equipment can be very high. 2, social media sites allow us to choose what we see and who we communicate with online. Each person's media profile is personal and is different from anyone else's. 3, you don't need a paper ticket because I've got an electric one on my phone. 4, this one's starting the sentence. 3-dimensional films are more realistic than normal films. Everything on the screen looks like real life. 5, high-tech robots used in industry have arms that are capable of movement in every direction. 6, since mobile phones were invented, it has been much easier for people to get help if their car breaks down on the road. So you got to add an S because it's third person. So if their car breaks down on the road. Okay, number 7. Microscopes allow us to see objects that are too small to see with our eyes. And number 8. Artificial legs have become so advanced that people who use them can run marathons and climb mountains. So let's turn the page and we'll go to page. Well, what we'll do first is we'll read the reading. So it's reading 2 and it's on page 133. So we'll read the essay and then we'll go back and answer the questions that start on page 132 and continue on 134. Okay, so again, if you want to get the most practice out of this, I would suggest that you try to read this article. What you could do is pause this video, read paragraph 1, and then play the video and listen to me read it. Check your pronunciation. Or you could do it the other way around. You could listen to me read paragraph 1, stop the video, and then you kind of repeat. Okay, so for pronunciation, reading practice is very helpful. All right, so I will read the article one paragraph at a time. Title: The World of Tomorrow. Paragraph 1. What will the world of the next generation look like? And the generation after that? Many people today are confident that technology is going to help solve some of the most challenging problems we have on Earth today, such as global warming and hunger. Other people are worried that while new technology may solve old problems, it may also create new ones. No technology is perfect. Each innovation has advantages and disadvantages, as these 3 examples illustrate. Okay, so we can already see that this essay is what we call a balanced essay because they're going to show you advantages and disadvantages. So they're not just focusing on one side, they're trying to show 2 sides. And this is kind of similar to the transport article that we read, which also talked about advantages and disadvantages. The last sentence, the word innovation, that's similar to invention, but an innovation is kind of taking a technology or taking something that we have and improving it or changing it to make it more modern. So innovation. Okay, paragraph 2. When we dream about the future, many of us like to think that we will be able to exit our garages and take to the skies in our own personal flying car. The advantages are obvious. This technology would allow total freedom of movement. We could fly at 480 kilometers per hour, avoiding traffic lights, busy roads, and speeding tickets. However, some people believe there will be problems with traffic control. If the car has become popular, there is likely to be air traffic congestion. Another big problem is mechanical failure. What will happen if the cars break down? These are problems we must expect if flying cars become a reality. Okay, so advantages, disadvantages, pros and cons of flying cars. Paragraph 3. Three-dimensional printing is another new technology with exciting possibilities for the future. 3D printers are used to build an object with liquid plastic. They build the object layer by layer until it is complete. Car companies already use 3D printers to make life-size models of car parts, and medical companies use the technology to make artificial body parts, such as ears. Before long, it might be possible to see a product on a website and then download it to your 3D printer at home. As we move into the future, 3D printing will revolutionize the way we shop, the way we manufacture, and the way we treat sick people. The downside is that such equipment will be extremely expensive. Okay, so three-dimensional printing. Let's move to paragraph 4. Finally, imagine having your own Iron Man suit. Several companies are trying to build a practical robot exoskeleton. This is an electronic suit with robot arms and legs which follow the wearer's movements. Exoskeletons allow you to lift heavy objects, walk long distances, and even punch through walls. There are obvious military advantages for this technology, but there are also benefits for rescue workers or people with disabilities. The suit might help people walk again after disease or injury. However, one disadvantage at the moment is cost. Even a simple exoskeleton can cost hundreds of thousands of pounds. Another problem is battery life. A heavy suit like this needs a lot of power, and battery life is short. However, these problems will no doubt be solved as lightweight plastic suits become available. Okay, so that's talking about an Iron Man suit, which most people have probably seen the films, so that one's kind of easy to imagine. Paragraph 5, looking ahead, it is not difficult to imagine. Right, there's actually a mistake there. It should say to imagine. So let's start again. Looking ahead, it is not difficult to imagine a future when we will be able to fly to work, print out a new pair of shoes, or lift a car above our heads. Although there are some problems to solve before all of this is possible, we can certainly dream of a world where technology makes life easier and safer for millions of people. Okay, so that was the reading. And like I said, it would be useful for your pronunciation just to kind of try to read it yourself, read it out loud. So what we'll do now is, just like we do when we do the real-time Zoom classes, we're going to answer the questions in the book. So you should definitely stop the video now, and you should try to answer the questions on page 132. You don't have to worry about part 2. So you're starting with part 3 and part 4. And then you go to page 134 and just try to answer the questions in part 5. Okay, so part 3, part 4, and part 5, just like we usually do. All right, so I'm going to wait a few seconds and I'm going to just assume that everybody is pausing the video and trying to answer the questions. Okay, so sorry about that. That's just a bit of a weird mistake on the PowerPoint, but I will go through the answers now. So first, page 132, part 3. So which paragraph describes a robot suit? Paragraph 4. Which paragraph describes a flying car? That's 2. Which one describes a 3D printer? Paragraph 3. That was kind of easy, so I went through that very fast. Now then, part 4. Read the article and complete the table with the advantages and disadvantages of each invention. So obviously we'll start with number 1, which is flying cars. Okay, so the advantage for the flying car is B. We could avoid speeding tickets. But the disadvantage, mechanical failure, might be a big problem. So yeah, obviously if there is a car in the sky and suddenly the engine fails, that vehicle falling down to the ground could be very dangerous. 2, 3D printing. What is the advantage? It's F. We could make our own plastic products. But the disadvantage, the equipment costs a lot of money. Finally, the robot suit, the advantage, that's C. It could help people walk again. But the disadvantage is E. There are problems with cost and battery life. Okay, and if we go to page 134 and part 5, so this one you had to decide, are the sentences true, false, or does not say? So it's T, F, or D, and S. If they are false, we have to correct the statement. Right, so number 1, flying cars will allow us to avoid traffic congestion on the roads. That is true. Flying cars will allow us to avoid traffic congestion on the roads. So the second sentence, the advantages are obvious. This is paragraph 2, second sentence. The advantages are obvious. This technology would allow total freedom of movement. We could fly at 480 kilometers per hour, avoiding traffic lights, busy roads, and speeding tickets. So those are the things that we have to deal with on the ground, on the roads. Flying cars, we don't have to deal with it. There are other problems, but we can avoid traffic congestion on the roads. 2, mechanical failure will not be a problem for flying cars. We just talked about this. It's false. So mechanical failure could be a problem for flying cars. So you can just change will not to the word could. Could be a problem. Number 3, we might be able to print things like hearts or lungs in the future. Right, now this one, the answer is DNS. It does not say. In paragraph 3, sort of in the middle, it says, car companies already use 3D printers to make life-size models of car parts, and medical companies use the technology to make artificial body parts, such as ears. Now, maybe in the future, they will also be able to make hearts or lungs, but we don't know. It doesn't actually say that. So the answer for 3 would be DNS. Number 4, 3D printing was invented in 1984. Again, it does not say. That information is not here. So DNS. 5, car companies make model car parts with 3D printers. That is true. That's what I just read. Car companies already use 3D printers to make life-size models of car parts. So yes, car companies make model car parts. Number 6, robot suits are heavy objects. This is also true. If you look at paragraph 4, sort of nearer towards the bottom where it says, another problem is battery life. A heavy suit like this. A heavy suit like this. So yes, robot suits are heavy. And 7, the battery life of a robot suit is long at the moment. That's false. We have to change the word long to short. The battery life is short at the moment. Okay, so those are the answers to the reading questions. And what we'll do next is we'll move to the language development, starting with page 135. All right, so for these pages, I'm going to mostly be speaking the answers. But again, I think it would be useful if you try to be interactive, pause the video sometimes, try to write the answers in your book. Okay, so this one says, making predictions with modals and adverbs of certainty. So modals, modal verbs, those are words like will, could, won't. Adverbs of certainty, definitely, probably. And we're going to use those words to make predictions about the future. So if you're 100% sure, you can say will definitely. So the example there, cars will definitely become more efficient in the future. If you're 90% sure, you can go with will probably. The next generation will probably use more digital devices. And then just kind of going down in the probability scale. 50% sure, you can go with could possibly. We could possibly see humans walking on Mars soon. Now for the next two, we're going to go with the word won't And you can see there's a slight difference. With the word won't, you put the adverb before it. So 20%, we're going to go with probably won't. We probably won't have flying cars. And if there is 0% chance, you can go with definitely won't. We definitely won't be traveling to the stars. All right, so I think this is not too difficult. And actually, I think the questions that come next are fairly simple because they give you the percentage number. So probably the most useful thing for the questions coming up would be just, again, a little bit of reading practice. So number one, you can see it says 100%. So in years to come, biofuels will definitely become more important. Number two, it says 20%. Genetic modification probably won't be very controversial before the end of the decade. Number three, in the near future, electronic human implants will probably become very common. Number four, biomimicry. Now that is actually connected to reading one. Mimic means to copy. Bio relates to biology. So biomimicry, 90%, will probably be a growing industry before too long. 5, self-driving cars will definitely be everyday products within the next 10 years. 6, people definitely won't own Iron Man suits within the next few years. And number 7, by 2035, many people could possibly have a 3D printer in their homes. Again, I think the most useful thing from this is just seeing how the vocabulary works in a sentence and kind of seeing how the grammar works. All right, so that's language development, making predictions with modals and adverbs of certainty. Let's turn the page and we're going to look at prefixes. So as you can see at the top there, a prefix is a group of letters which goes at the start of a word to make a new word with a different meaning. Each prefix has a specific meaning. So they're going to give us an example. The prefix sub means under. And then, so if you put it with the word marine, which means related to water, you get submarine, which is a kind of boat which goes under the water. Okay, so often if you know what these prefixes mean, you can guess the meaning of new words. Submarine. Will be another one, substandard. That means something is under the standard. It's substandard. So we could say the service in this restaurant is substandard. It's poor service. Okay, so we're going to have a go at doing part 3 and part 4. Part 3, look at these prefixes, their meanings and the examples. Then add your own examples to the table. Use a dictionary to help you. Right, maybe you can just have a go at adding 2 more. In a minute, I will suggest 2 more. Maybe you can see if you have the same ideas as me. Part 4, you're going to compare pairs of sentences and you're going to try to figure out, are the meanings the same or opposite? Do the sentences have the same or opposite meanings? So everybody, I would pause the video now and I would have a go at filling in page 136. Okay, so look at the table. The first prefix is D. The meaning is become less or go down. Their example is decrease. Okay, so decriminalize. That means when you make something less of a crime. Decriminalize. So we could say some drugs have been decriminalized in America and Europe. The crime rate has become less, the punishment for those drugs. Another one, devolve. So instead of evolve, which means to get more evolved, devolve is like kind of going backwards in evolution. Devolve. Okay, dis. The second one is dis, opposite. So they go for disagree. Disinterest, disinterested. So it's the opposite of to be interested, disinterested. How about dissuade? The opposite of persuade. So I tried to dissuade my friend from going outside without a mask. Somebody wants to do something and you try to tell them not to, you can say dissuade. The next one, en. The meaning is cause. They go for enable. Okay, enact. That means to cause an action. Enact, enact. Endanger. We came across that word, endanger. To put something in danger, to put something in danger, but we use the prefix en, endanger, like endangered animals. Next one, prefix is pre, P-R-E, it means before. The book says prevent. We could go for predetermine. That means something has already been decided. Predetermined. Let's do another one for pre. Prevent, predetermine, presuppose. Or we could go with presume, actually. Presume. So we have assume. I assume. But if you already make that decision before, you can go with presume. So, for example, I started the class on time because I presumed everybody would be ready. So before the class started, I already decided everybody will be ready at 11 a.m. So I presumed the students would be ready. Next one, prefix re, it means again, rebuild, reconnect, so connect something again. Return, that means to go somewhere again. Trans, that means across or through. Transport, transfer, like transfer money. Transmit, if you're talking about the movement of electronic waves, you can say transmit. And the last prefix, un, remove or not, unlikely. Unhappy, that means not happy. Unpopular, something is not popular, unpopular. There are many examples. I'm just thinking of some examples off the top of my head right now. Let's go to part 4. So compare the pairs of sentences using the table above. Do the sentences have the same or opposite meanings? Write S for the same or O for opposite. Right, so number one, flying cars are unsafe, flying cars are dangerous. So do those two sentences have the same meaning or opposite? The answer is same. Unsafe is a synonym for dangerous. Number two, we have to rethink the way we use technology. We have to think again about how we use technology. Same. Rethink is a synonym for think again. Three, genetic engineering dehumanizes us. Genetic engineering makes us more human. Opposite. Dehumanize means it makes us less human. So those have opposite meanings. Number four, can this software translate a document from French to English? Can this software change the language of a document from French to English? Same. Translate from French to English means change the language from French to English. Same. Five, seatbelts in cars prevent many injuries and deaths. Seatbelts cause many injuries and deaths. Opposite. Prevent and cause. Opposite. Prevent means stop from happening. Cause means making something happen. Six, this laboratory is very disorganized. This laboratory is neat. Opposite. Disorganized is similar to untidy, messy. Neat is the opposite. And number seven, the font on your presentation is too small. Can you enlarge it? Can you make it bigger? Same. Okay, so prefixes to make new words. Right, so the next page in your book, page 137, we don't really need to look at this. It's just talking about advantages and disadvantages of technology. So we can skip that. Let's go to page 139, and we have relative clauses, grammar for writing. Okay, I'll just read the box. Use relative clauses to give more information about a noun without starting a new sentence. There are two kinds of relative clauses, defining and non-defining. Defining relative clauses give essential information about the noun. In contrast, non-defining relative clauses give extra, non-essential information about the noun. These clauses can be removed from the sentence, but the key information about the noun will still be clear. Okay, so let's just look at the two examples. So the defining clauses, it says on the left, use who or that for people and which or that for things. So Velcro has a unique structure. It allows two strips to stick together. So basically we can make this into one sentence. Velcro has a unique structure which allows two strips to stick together. And for the non-defining clause example, use who for people and which for things. Velcro was invented in 1941 by George de Mestral. George de Mestral saw the seeds on his dog's hair. Make it one sentence. Velcro was invented in 1941 by George de Mestral, who saw the seeds on his dog's hair. So it's basically just being more efficient with your writing, using one sentence instead of two or three. We don't need to spend too much time on this. I will just read the answers to the questions below. But basically, if it's a person, you use who. If it's a thing, you can just put which. So number one, the Speedo fast skin swimsuit uses a technology which is based on the rough patterns on a shark's skin. Let's not worry about whether it's D or N because it doesn't really matter, to be honest. Number 2, scientists discovered that eagles and falcons have oil over their eyes. The oil, which filters out harmful radiation, allows them to see very clearly. Robotic exoskeletons will be useful for rescue workers like firefighters. Now we're talking about people, so we're going to go with who often have to lift people out of burning buildings or cars. Number 4 is also talking about people who are unable to walk may be able to walk with the help of a robotic suit. 3D printing, which makes it possible to build objects using layers of liquid plastic, may allow shoppers to see a product online and then download it to their printer at home. Relative clauses, being more efficient with your words. Okay, and we're just going to look at one more page. It's page 141. And this is basically just to give you some more vocabulary. If you want to talk about positive arguments or negative arguments, we got a bunch of different phrases at the top. So you could just use these phrases if you want to talk about the positive or negative argument. So number 1, the main advantage of, and that's where you put the whatever it is you're talking about, probably a noun, is, and then you say what the advantage is. So I think the best way to do this, let's have a look at part 4, and we can just choose some of these phrases to fill in the sentences. So look at number 1, part 4, number 1, blank robots. So we're talking about robots, is that they can do dangerous or boring jobs instead of humans. So now I can see, all right, that looks like an advantage. It looks like a positive. So we need to have an expression that is a positive argument. So why don't we go with number 8. The main argument in favor of robots is that they can do dangerous or boring jobs instead of humans. Number 2, blank genetic engineering is that the new plant species may change human DNA. Right, so this is going to be a negative, right? Changing human DNA, it doesn't sound like a good thing. So maybe we'll go with number 2. The main disadvantage of genetic engineering is that the new plant species may change human DNA. Number 3, we're talking about medical imaging. And it says, is that you can see clearly inside patients' bodies. Okay, so this is going to be a positive argument. So let's go with number 5. One good thing about medical imaging is that you can see clearly inside patients' bodies. Number 4, back to robots. So I guess this one is going to be a negative one, taking jobs away from people. So let's go with 9. The main argument against robots is that they take jobs away from people. And number 5, flying cars. They could crash, causing terrible accidents. So this is going to be a negative. So let's go with maybe number 6. One bad thing about flying cars is that they could crash, causing terrible accidents. So this is basically just giving you some language if you want to talk about positives or negatives or the positive argument for something. Right, so I think that is it. The next page in the book is about writing an introductory paragraph, which we already did last week. So that is everything for Unit 6. So the next class that we do together will be real-time in the Zoom world, and we will study Unit 7, fashion. So before that class, make sure that you are ready for the vocabulary quiz. Okay, everybody. I hope that you found something useful from this video. See you all next time.